Hello, in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to set up the foliage tools inside Unreal to help you create your scenes and decorate them with trees, plants, etc. So what we'll do is up here we'll click on the foliage tool. Now I'm in Unreal 420, I believe in 425 onwards it changed slightly and it's moved up here, but it's the same principle. So we'll click on the foliage tool. What I've set up here in the screen is just a normal cube with a scale of 10 by 10, so nothing fancy here. Obviously you can apply this to landscape tools. If you don't know how to use the landscape tools, I have a tutorial on that, so please check that out. So we'll go to foliage tools. So what you've got here is we're just going to be using the paint tool, and there's other tools here for deleting, selecting, etc. But we're just going to be using the paint tool. So the first one we've got is our brush size. Paint density is a bit like how hard you push on a pencil when drawing. You know that obviously the harder you push, the more denser the line is, and obviously erase density is exactly the same thing, but in reverse. So what we've got here is drop foliage here, so that is exactly what it means. We'll go to our foliage, so I've got some simple grass created here. We'll drag that in. So that's instantly added our grass in. So now what you'll notice is we've got our little painty ball thing here, and so you can set this, increase the size on that, but what I'm going to do is just going to keep everything at default. So you've also got here a little number. Now this shows you how many instances of the foliage are in a scene. So if I click on that, we've got 41 bits of grass, and as you can see here, the scattering is more, I'd say, suited towards plants, bushes. You can use it for grass, but obviously it looks a bit sparse and not very interesting. So what we'll do is we'll just undo that, and when we click on this, it gives you, just expand this out a bit, there we go, gives you all these settings related to this mesh. Now so you've got your density, that what we'll do is we'll put that at, say, 10,000, and suddenly we've got some nice dense grass there. We've got the radius. Now this is great because what you can do is you can say, when we get into trees, which I'll show you later on, is that we can use this to separate them so they're not, what happens is you can end up lapping each other, and you don't want that. So you can see there we're getting some nice spacing between each one, so they're not overlapping, not getting too close. So I'll just reset that back. You've got scaling, so what you can do here is you can say, well, I want them to be a minimum height of 0.2 and a maximum height of 1.2, and what happens is you start getting variation in the height. A bit hard to see with the grass, but we'll see later with the trees and bushes how that affects that. Again, I'll set that back to what it was. What you've got here is other things relating to how it paints on tilts. So when you get into creating cliffs and things like that, do you want it to paint at a 90-degree angle? Generally 45 works. Culling, that's very important to a performance. I've kept up here my FPS counter, and this shows the performance decrease that will happen. The culling, I've got another video on that. If you need help on that, I do advise it's very important. You can also say casting shadows, things like that, and you can disable those. So again, that increases performance. Again, that'll be shown in this video. So what we'll do is we're just going to paint some grass on here. So I've set this to a density of 10,000, maybe a bit over the top, but we want to do that. So we're painting our grass, as you can see, incredibly easy. You can see, though, what impact it's having on the FPS there. It's dropped from 120. I'm running a 280 Titan. So, for it to do that, it's obviously quite a big performance hog. So, there we go. So, we've got some nice grass. Obviously, paint these gaps in a bit here. There we go. So, we've got some nice grass here. So, what we can now do is, it's not limited to using just one of these foliage. We can say, right, we want to add some plants, so we're going to say we'll add the white one in. So we drag the white flowers in, and if you untick this, so the one we were using, we'll untick that. That means it no longer paints, so we won't be painting grass and the flowers. But I'll show you how to do and why that's good in a minute. So we're going to plonk our flowers down. That for me is using just the D. What happens is here, when you click on each foliage, you've got two separate settings. So when we click on the grass, we've got our settings for 10,000. When we click on the flowers, we've got our settings for the flowers, and so obviously that's great because you can have unique settings for each tool. So now what we can do is we can also combine two foliages together. So we'll drag these two flowers in, and I've unticked the white one that we just painted, but these two are now ticked. So what happens now is that they'll both paint at the same time. So as you can see, that's speeding up things hugely. You know, you can imagine if you're creating whole biomes or great big forests or whatever, you can see how much that would help. So what we're also going to do is show you the scaling. So what I'll do is I'll get, where's my trees? I'm going to drag my tree in. Again, I've unticked all of those. Select the tree, and we're going to say, well, we want a maximum of 0.5, a minimum of 0.5, and a maximum of 1.5. And what we're going to do is, well, set the radius. So we'll do a radius of 400, and we'll say, plonk those about. You can see they're not overlapping each other, and they're different heights. So then what we can do is we're going to say get a bit of a denser tree, and again, I've unticked that. We'll say we don't want them any closer than 500, 0.5, 1.5. Plonk those in. Now we go again. Somewhere. Now, this doesn't need to be just used for foliage. An example is that, say, somewhere here, I've got a rock, so we're going to drag a rock in, click on the rock, we're going to space that out, and make these smaller because I know what they are, so 0.2 to 0.5, and you know we can start plonking these around. You could use this for, let's say, dead tree trunks, or you know, anything really. You know, a good example is, say, we want to add these in, these little plank litter things. We'll say we want, again, 400. Are they being plonked down? Yeah, I think it's being overridden from, yeah, you can see it being overridden from the grass there. So yeah, it's not just limited to that. A good example would use something ridiculous. Here it's fencing. So you can say, well, I only want a density of 10, and you can plonk and say 400. Plonk fencing down. Obviously, you know, in an ideal world, you'd want to plonk those manually, but some people do that. You do it with buildings and all sorts. So yeah, there's loads of settings in here. So if we go to, say, you know, the foliage, click on the grass, scroll down, we can say disable the shadows. You can see straight away it's disable the shadows, and the performance. So it's currently about 60. As soon as I disabled though, it's now close to 100, so you can see the huge performance increases on those. But yeah, hopefully that's helped. If it has, please give a like and maybe subscribe. Cheers.